Hello, everyone. It's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer. Welcome to the Development Hell Podcast. The movie club is back at it again. We're smaller in numbers this time, but we're still going to have some fun. Pour one out for Joe and Matt, who can't join us this month. But we are talking about Wong Kar-Wai's Chungking Express. And we got Jim, Vinnie, Alex, and myself here to chat about it. So let's do the rounds and have everybody give their piece about it. So, Jim, what are your general thoughts about Chungking Express?
This might be the first movie from the club that I had to watch twice. Like I had to watch twice. So I'm assuming anybody who clicked on this video has seen the movie. As usual, I don't shy away from giving spoilers. It's kind of a movie of two halves, right? Like a lot of people have been saying about the World Cup. Tale of two halves. The stories are loosely related. I had some crazy off-the-wall theories after my second viewing that I debunked myself because of my second viewing. What did I write down? I wrote themes: change, loneliness, time. Motifs: water, tighty-whities, planes, sunglasses. I don't know why or what the significance is of the cop's number being misconstrued from 663 to 633. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but like at a certain point in the movie,
Yeah,
everybody just starts referring to him as 633, and that's not his real number. It's 663. Really interesting. I think after the second viewing, the movie is about falling in love with the idea of a thing. That's all I'm going to say for now. Next.
Boom, Vinny.
all right. Well, I have some ideas as well, but I'll get into them once we get deeper into the discussion. But just in short, this was actually, I mean, I saw it in The Mood for Love back in college. I haven't seen it since, but I remember loving it. And this is only the second movie that I've seen of Wong Kar-Wai's, and just by those two movies alone, I could see that he's really good. He's really good at making sort of unconventional sort of unconventional romances that do have a lot to say. Like with for this one, I really did like the two story structure, and seeing how they connect, how they differ. And you really do get a sense, like a real sense of place, in the way he films his settings. And it really hooks you into that environment, especially like the enclosed, like the tight enclosed spaces, and everything. But anyway, I'll get more into detail as we go on. But I really enjoyed it.
Alex?
Well, I need to watch this movie again. That's for sure. I did listen to some. I had to have like some explanation, so I did go to YouTube and get like an explained. Um, it- you know, but instead of talking about that, I am very interested in hearing what you all say. But I'm especially interested in hearing what Jim has to say, because I know you lived in China. So I forget which part, but I'm just curious. Um, I mean, it seems like there's a big identity crisis with the entire culture there. But I didn't really get that until I listened to the thing on YouTube. I was just getting mad Blade Runner vibes from the music and the rain, and then just like some of the way it was shot. I was getting a lot of like mad Blade Runner vibes. And if there's anything I can talk about as far as analysis goes, is how I don't know. There's something very claustrophobic about the way the movie was made. You don't get a lot of location shots. You don't get any bird's eye view. It's all like in the streets, inside the neighborhoods, inside the shop, inside the apartment, everything's very tight, you know. But I need to watch it again to really take away something personally from it.
I definitely need another rewatch as well. I did automatically jump onto Amazon to put this on my wish list and realize that the Criterion of this is out of print. So to get Criterion, it's like $200.
Oh wow. Man.
No. So just gonna get it on a different DVD or Blu-ray. But let's see. Main thoughts. Well, based off of our 2 entries from Wong Kar-Wai, romance is tough in Hong Kong and it's complicated. So definitely my first thought, which I do think he has a knack for really losing the audience in a complicated and unconventional romance, especially for our standards. So like, as we're all sitting here, Americans who've seen so many romances in like American culture, it's just like, this usually isn't how things play out. And it's interesting because it's like a lot more complex and challenging. And should they be together? Are they going to wind up together? It's not asking, it's like, oh, how are they going to get together? It's like, well, we're going to see how this goes. And also, all the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. Because how many times did they play California Dreamin' in this movie? I'm pretty sure it was like 10. Like, at least.
I didn't count, but it was a lot. It was many times.
And they played it for like long stretches too.
I feel like every other scene had that song in it. Because like the only piece of this film I had ever seen was this popped up on a list of like great uses of songs in a movie. And great as in they use it the most, maybe. They definitely used it the most. But you know, like, God, I had that song stuck in my head so much by the end of the weekend after I watched this. But it's he has such a unique vibe to his films. He has a very distinct look to them. It's atmospheric. And I didn't really think about it, but Alex, you brought up an interesting point about the claustrophobic feel to it, which it really is. You feel like you're stuck in it with them. And like really, because like the whole second half of this film, like being stuck right at that shop. And it's just like, kept going back to the shop. Did they go back to the shop more times or did they play that song more times? We'll have to go back and do a count of it. But it's the kind of thing where it's just like, I know I'm having some fun with this, but like, this is a very intriguing and engaging film that I'm just like, I need to chew on this. I need to chew on this a lot and give it another watch and really process everything.
Yeah, there were a couple scenes that I thought the use of the song was transcendent. Like, I don't really know about how it matched up with what's the word for when a song is used in the film, but they're actually listening to it in the film.
Diegetic.
Diegetic. Thank you, Vinny. So there were a couple scenes where diegetically it made sense, and to us it actually worked. On the theme of change, 1994 was like right at the period where Hong Kong was being handed over from the British back to mainland China. So if I don't remember how many of you guys were on the discussion for In the Mood for Love, but he used the same kind of inspiration of like a political changeover for a movie. With Cambodia, he used Cambodia in a very abrupt shift, which I didn't like personally. Stylistically, it didn't work for me. But right, there's like American pop culture is kind of all over this movie, especially if you like going to China, I thought that all the kids would know American pop music, and that wasn't the case. Like, China is also a hegemon. Hong Kong in 1994 was a hegemon. Like, they don't necessarily need pop culture exports from the USA. You know what I mean? So the fact that he chose to use these songs in English in his movies is important. And I'm just going to say it now. So, like, my drunk thought on this movie is that Chongqing in the Chinese tones kind of sounds like changing, which is in a phrase from that Cranberries song they use over and over and over again, changing every day in every way.
Oh, wow.
So again, I'm going to qualify that by saying it was a drunk thought. But because the movie was shot in Hong Kong and the movie is called Chungking Express, I think that's why he went with Chongqing, because it sounds like changing in that lyric from the Cranberries.
Interesting.
Mind blown. Good job.
Yeah.
Jim just shows up and just like drops the mic, and we're like, "Oh, we're done. We're gonna let Jim get to his thing."
I still have so many questions, though. I have so many questions. Like, I don't. Okay, so what did you guys think of the woman in the blonde wig, the drug dealer in the blonde wig and the sunglasses?
I wanted to find out a little bit more about her. I was a little upset that we never like fully got to find out what her deal was.
Got to keep that femme fatale at arm's length.
Yep. Oh no, I mean, I'm sure there was a reason. I'm sure there was a reason why Wong Kar-Wai like wrote her the way he did and like kind of kept things close to the chest. But you know, I just kind of wish we, you know, like she was interesting to watch. Like I just kind of wish we had like a little bit more time with her.
It's interesting because Alex, you brought up Blade Runner vibes, so noirish kinds of elements, and like she just screams like I'm a femme fatale from like a noir story that's just like, we're never gonna quite know, but she's dangerous. We like it, and obviously so's the character in the movie, and having that kind of connection. And I think that's an interesting thing, like playing with different kinds of elements. And I think it's an interesting thing that like this film was very distinctly two stories like put together. And, you know, it's like, was he trying to like, didn't have enough material for either one of them to make his own feature film, so just put them together. But like, obviously there's considerably more to that than that. But they both had very interesting vibes and had that kind of, I don't know, there's just something kind of mesmerizing about the whole thing, because you're just sitting here like, how's this all going to play out? Because this film never once gives you an idea like it's going to play out exactly how you think it's going to. And if you think it's going to play out a certain way, the film's going to do its best to make sure that it doesn't. Because like, this is not what you're normally signing up for when you go into like a romance.
Neither of the stories are resolved, are they?
I don't know.
The first one certainly is not, without a doubt. Yeah.
In a way, it was kind of satisfying. I'd forgotten that she killed the white guy at the end of the first half of the movie. That was kind of a resolution in a way for me. But like, we still, like Vinnie said, we don't know anything about her, right? Like, she's not a character. That's why we need that young love-struck, I didn't write his name down, the protagonist of the first half of the movie is much more relatable to us than the woman in the blonde wig, right? Because we don't know anything about her. She's living a dangerous life. She's in love with an American guy who's an asshole, apparently. And then
Americans.
I'm thinking she only has the wig on because of him, right? Do you guys notice that?
Oh yeah,
scene where the other woman puts the wig on.
Yeah. A couple times she shows up.
Yeah, until he dies.
Yeah.
You're making me realize that kind of the wig adds to the theme of like a sort of identity crisis we're, the culturally, the way we look has to change because of, the change of what's happening, of all these bombardment of different cultures, and I didn't even get the white guy thing until you mentioned, he seems like a dick. He's really pushing her around. He's a dick. He's pushing her around. He's forcing himself on her. And yeah, it's, so that kind of is some symbol that there's some symbolism there.
To me, the sunglasses were important because, like, there was a baseball player who made like an eye thing a couple of years ago and gotten big shit for it. Again, this is 94. This is not 2020, 2022, The most distinctive thing about Asian people are the slanty eyes, right?
Wow.
So that's how I read the sunglasses. Is that like we should be ashamed of the way we look. So like that's where the sunglasses comes from.
God damn Americans and their imperialism coming in and trying to destroy people's cultures.
Can we talk? I want to talk a little bit about how much food is emphasized in the movie, because in the first story you have the one police officer, and he said he just broke up with his girlfriend, and he said like he was gonna eat a can of pineapple because she breaks up with him on April 1st, and he thinks it's a joke because of April Fool's Day. So he says, I'm gonna eat a can of pineapple every day in April until the end of the month. And then what's it supposed to be like he's gonna do that every day in April, and then he hopes she'll come back on May 1st. Like I can't remember like why exactly he sets about doing that.
Like that's on Wikipedia. It's about the expiration date.
I don't think he gave an explanation, but that was just his way of coping with the situation. He was like, I'm going to give it 30 days. And if she doesn't come back to me, then it's over, I think.
Yeah, because I couldn't really remember if there was something more to it. But anyway, you have that here, and then you have the potential girlfriend in the second story who works at the restaurant. She's always feeding the main character in that story, and then there are a couple of scenes where she's in like that I guess like sort of like downtown area, and he's eating there with his fellow police officers, and food really shows up a lot in that second story as well. And I want you guys to put your I want to hear your take on it. But the way I saw it is that just like food, romance, like a romantic relationship is something we want to get our fill of before it expires. That's the way I sort of read into it. I want to know what you guys think.
Now that you're talking about it, Vinny, every time she bumps into him in the second, obviously in the second half, does anybody remember her name? I don't remember her name.
I don't remember it. I'm sorry.
So the girl in the second half with the short hair, right? The modern haircut.
Mm-hmm.
The girl, Faye, yes, thank you, Faye Wong. Every time she bumps into him purposefully, he's eating like a Chinese dish. It's like rice and, I don't know, marinated pork or whatever.
Right.
But at their stand, it's always like, what is it? Chef salad. I was just trying to write things down. Pizza, hot dog,
fish and chips.
Fish and chips is all Western stuff. I didn't realize that until you started talking just now.
And Coca-Cola.
And Coca-Cola. Yeah. And black coffee, which is not a Chinese thing. It's always tea in China.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
wow.
That's really significant. So maybe in the first half of the movie, it's like this foreigner's idea of a lover is not, I don't know, she's trying to fit into what he wants and she can't quite do it. And then in the second half, not only it's almost like a call to inspiration, isn't it? Like she's being called to California and he's being drawn to her, but also has one foot kind of in traditional culture as well, I guess, right? But it's interesting what you said about how did you put it, Vinny? Getting into falling in love before its expiration date.
Just like just like with food, a romantic relationship is something that we want to get our fill of before it expires and goes bad.
That's really good. I still don't know why there's one scene she's changing the labels in his apartment. Number 663, the cop, she's like changing the labels on the sardines in his apartment. And I was like,
I remember
that's
that.
so weird. Like, why is she doing that? Is she moving the dates up or moving them back? I still don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, it definitely is something that you have to watch. That you have to watch a couple of times. Not necessarily because it's confusing. Just like with any movie, there are small yet important details they might miss the first time around. I only got the chance to watch this once, but I do want to revisit it at some point.
There are definitely subtleties that felt like they were trying to say, it was supposed to say something bigger, aside from what you were just seeing, on the screen. It's just because otherwise, if you don't look into it, then it's just weird people doing weird things,
There's a lot of symbology in this movie, for sure. And sometimes you have to, like, you see a scene and it doesn't make sense and you're like, okay, I have to think about this for a second. I can't just write this off. After I watched this for the second time, my first thought was, okay, the girl, Faye Wong, from the second half is also the woman in the blonde wig from the first half. And then I was like, no, that can't be, because there's a scene where the woman in the blonde wig is standing there next to a store and Faye walks into the store and buys the Garfield toy, another Western thing. She buys the Garfield toy and walks out again. And I was like, okay, they're not the same person. Not literally, at least, but maybe they, represent similar things.
Well, I think this film's interesting in the way that it's like you could obviously just sit there and watch it and see the surface level of the relationships in either half of it. Obviously, there's a little extra excitement in the first half, dealing with like drugs and stuff like that. But like as we're all pointing out here, it's like every scene there seems to be these underlying layers of meaning and symbolism that just add so much depth and texture to the experience. And if you're tuned into it, this could be a much more dynamic experience for you watching the film. But then there's still enough, I feel like you could watch this film from the surface and still think, oh, that was a really interesting movie. It has that feel technically. It feels different. It feels engrossing.
Totally. Yeah. I've rolled my eyes twice before recording and while recording at the California Dreamin' aspect of it. Until I started realizing about the whole identity crisis thing. I mean, for a lot of people, that song is like an identity crisis thing, when you start the idea of like going out to California, part of what people like about it is that they don't know what it's going to bring to them. Mm-hmm. They like that because they want to get away from what's known. And the fact that she's constantly listening to that, it's like they have no connection to, relation to, familial, connection to anything going on in California. unless that was going to be set in the plot or something. Oh, I have an aunt or I have a grandmother in California or something like that. They don't have any of that. They don't care, and she just wants to go somewhere because it's something else, something new, something unknown. And so now that I'm hearing the identity crisis thing, hearing us talk more about California Dreaming makes a whole lot of sense.
Mhm.
The use of it so much made me feel like they didn't have enough money to use any more music. But then again, if they used because there's a lot of songs written about California, they could have used 4 or 5 other songs written, but then that's not going to have the same effect, but it almost becomes like a pound, like a drone in your face.
Well,
I was gonna mention with California songs. I was gonna mention the theme song to the OC, but then I realized that show. But then I remember that show came out 10 years later.
Wait, what is the theme song to that? Isn't it
it's the one that goes like, California, here we come, right back where we started from, California.
California, Pennsylvania. No,
and this was even before this is before Tupac's song too.
You're right. Yeah.
Wow.
So darn, missing out on so many California songs.
Yeah.
This is the same year as Pulp Fiction, yes?
One thought that popped in my head, and this might be looking way too into it, but we talked so much about the inclusion and even the the invasion of American culture in this. And it felt like the soundtrack was just listening to American radio. How many damn times do they play the same songs in the same day? And it's just that repetitive. It's just that's how do songs get popular? Because they play T Swift 50 times a day. And
Z100 plays the same 5 songs every day.
Well, we talk about that, and I'm sure we talk about this a lot on the pod, but the other pod that we do, it's almost like a piece of real estate, and that's why it gets played, because that time has been secured and purchased and by somebody who has money, to make that happen. I'm not saying that it's not good. It's just that it's difficult to secure that spot and that real estate.
Wong Kar-Wai deserves a little bit of throwback from, financially, whichever record put out the Cranberries' first couple albums. I don't know who it was, but I remember being I was either in China or I was in Southeast Asia when their lead singer died a few years ago.
Oh yeah,
and their music was everywhere. It was everywhere,
really?
And I didn't know at the time why young people, connected to the Cranberries. I think this movie has a lot to do with it.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, I didn't even realize it was the Cranberries until you said.
I love that song.
Yeah, I never. I don't know if I'm not sure I ever heard it.
What? Really?
Yeah, I don't know, because I knew Zombie and I knew Linger.
Linger is another good one, yeah.
The only one
are they not on the same record? I think they're on the same album.
I don't know. I never really listened to them beyond those 2 songs.
I know Zombie.
Fun anecdote about Linger.
Played all the time too.
Yeah,
White Wolves or whatever. They covered that song.
Great song.
It's interesting that, because Hong Kong cinema is very distinct kind of filmmaking and stuff like that, and because Hong Kong's its own kind of separate offshoot of China. It has its own culture there, and I dove a little bit into John Woo films earlier this year. I finally watched Hard Boiled and stuff like that, and it's and like Infernal Affairs is from Hong Kong too, right? I'm pretty sure.
I believe
film,
so.
Yeah, the film that The Departed's based off of, and it's very interesting, like seeing that kind of energy that you get in these kinds of films, and the filmmakers. One of my favorite things, honestly, about film is getting lost in other people's cultures and like perspectives and stuff like that, which is why I do like to spend the time to check out different kinds of things. And from what I've seen of like Hong Kong cinema, is just like there's a very different kind of energy, and it doesn't always translate well. Look at you, John Woo. Did his directing really translate well into Hollywood? We got Face Off, which like
And Mission Impossible 2.
we'll not talk about that.
Face Off was successful at the time.
Well, Face Off was very successful, and God, Face Off is one of those kinds of things that I have so much fun watching it, but then sitting there like, why is this 2 hours and 20 minutes? Why is this movie doing this? And I feel like if it wasn't for John Travolta and Nick Cage, that movie wouldn't work in any shape that it does.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting seeing, because like, has Wong Kar-Wai done any like non-Hong Kong cinema?
I look, you know what, I was looking up his filmography. Actually, a couple days ago, he did one movie in English. Let me look it up really quick. It wasn't that well received. Hold on, give me a second.
All I know is I want to watch. All I want to do is watch The Grandmaster.
He did a movie in. It was released in 2008, and it was his English debut. It was called My Blueberry Nights. It has Nora Jones, Jude Law, David Strathairn, Rachel Weisz, and Natalie Portman.
I'm gonna watch that movie. I am gonna see that movie.
I didn't know Nora Jones ever acted in anything
Besides Ted.
Oh yeah, she was in that. Well, I haven't seen Ted since I saw it in theaters 10 years ago.
Wow.
Worth a rewatch, Vinnie.
Well, I mean, I just remember like the first third of it was hysterical, but then like the rest of it was like
Exactly.
You mean like they tried to stretch Family Guy to feature length, but it didn't work?
Exactly.
But anyway, I digress. About Nora Jones being in Ted. It's interesting that like the only films I've seen of Wong Kar-Wai was specifically for the movie club here. It does look like I'm gonna have to wait until next year to nominate The Grandmaster, though.
I would have thought you've seen several of his movies because you see everything, Shane. Come on.
Yeah, never get any sleep.
Shane stares balefully into camera.
So I have over 200 movies on my watch list. And so just to give some perspective, I've seen 700 movies this year.
Oh.
And I still have 660 more that I could watch.
Oh my God. Shane, when do you sleep?
There's always next year, Shane.
Then there'll be another 700 for me to watch next year. And another 700 for me to miss out on, because that's how many films come out. That's
No TV. No more TV for you, Shane.
Can't watch any more TV shows.
How many films are still made, especially after all the noise about it being a dying medium or whatever. It's still
different,
but people are still making movies.
Yeah,
Shane,
a lot of them on VOD and streaming now. So
Shane, if we were meant to see every movie in existence, we'd be like we would have been made immortal.
So, have any of you seen About Time?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. Like I remember seeing the ads for it when it came
I have
out.
to double check when it came out because if it counts, I think that would be a very interesting choice for us to do on this. But the basic idea is this young man, Donald Gleason, gets to a certain age, and his father informs him that he has a hereditary trait that he can time travel. And if he goes into a dark place and envisions where he wants to go, it'll take him there. And his dad, Bill Nye, is just like, I did it too. Read. And like he just kept going back in time to read other books. And just and I'm like,
I can still relate to that because I have a to be read list that's almost 300 books long.
So if I had that power, I'd be turning back that clock, watching a new movie, turn back the clock, watch another movie, and I would see everything.
It's like the golden thread in reverse. Is that the concept behind that movie?
What's a golden thread?
The golden thread is like you get to speed ahead in your life. So the young kid is eager to grow up, so he pulls the golden
and
thread.
The fast forward button.
I don't know. I've never seen Click. Maybe yes.
That one I'm not recommending for us to join here. If I'm gonna recommend an Adam Sandler movie, it's definitely not gonna be Click.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. We're gonna have to wait a little bit for that one. What 2029?
2029. Yep. He's
Got plans.
He's gonna work with the Saudis again. I'm very excited.
But before I get too much off a tangent here, but like I've appreciated getting back to my original point. I've appreciated exploring some of Wong Kar-Wai's films on here, and like I definitely do want to watch The Grandmaster because that just looks cool, and I can just imagine his style with like martial arts films. Want to see it, and I did put that other movie on my watch list too, the Blueberry one with
nice
Norah Jones and Jude Law.
Listen, guys, do you mind if I sign off for the night?
Vinny's not allowed to go ever.
Ever.
One of us. Ooga booga, ooga booga. One of us.
One of us forever.
All right, but I am looking forward to our discussion next month, guys.
Which will be Place Beyond the Pines, which will be our 10-year birthday movie this time around to wrap up the year. So Place Beyond the Pines is turning 10. We're going to talk about it.
See you guys then.
But I guess, Jim and Alex, do either of you have anything else to add about Chungking Express?
I was talking to a guy at work who had recently seen this movie coincidentally, and he said his favorite part of the movie was Tony Leung, number 663, talking to his household items and like projecting himself onto them. So I thought that was worth an honorable mention, not only for young Tony Leung, but like how he like told his towel it was wasting away, and his bar of soap that it needed to take care of itself. But then like when she came in and replaced the towel and the bar of soap, he kind of reversed. He backtracked on it, and he was like, "Oh, you're looking a little fat, you know."
Huh. Interesting. I remember thinking that was weird. I didn't know what the heck to make out of that.
I really like him as an actor. Like, because obviously he's been in both these films. If I'm not mistaken, he was also in Hard Boiled that I watched from John Woo. And it was very interesting that he had his first ever English language film just last year with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, like, Marvel got him. He was the real Mandarin, Wenwu. And, like, he was a great addition to it. And he had some great martial arts moments in that film. Obviously, we don't get to see that in this. This one's a little bit more dramatic acting and not kicking ass kind of acting. But I think this film's very interesting because like the parallels between the two stories with these two police officers, with these love stories that they have, that don't think it's going to work out for them, but they're going to give it a try. And we can appreciate that. And I can appreciate it because, like, after you watch, especially now, the timing of romance films right now is the same damn movie for Christmas over and over and over and over again. Just like, hey, it's an uptight woman from the city, goes out to the country. Oh, look at this salt of the earth man. He's an asshole. I hate him. I love him. I want him. And there's your movie. So it's refreshing to see something different. And this is definitely different. It's not something that you've experienced before. It's not something that is easy. And you actually have to think about it and process it and think, like, were these women the best fits for either of these men? Like, should they be pursuing them? It's like, is it kind of thing? And I feel like it's an interesting experience going through this film, kind of processing that and thinking about that and trying to figure that out.
Yeah. And they're both cops, right? Right. So that's one element I don't think we probably looked at enough, but
They're both policemen officers.
there's
Sorry. Specifically, it says, so the synopsis says, two melancholy Hong Kong policemen fall in love, one with a mysterious female underworld figure and the other with a beautiful and ethereal waitress.
I thought you were quoting Hot Fuzz when you said policemen officers.
I did.
Oh, okay. Oh,
That
okay.
was on purpose.
Oh, okay. I'm not crazy. But
You heard that right, Alex. You are not going crazy.
Hot Fuzz, baby. Love it.
Love it.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, I don't want to end a video like this, but there's definitely an element of loneliness that, regardless of where you're from, I think is very relatable. And I think that that's definitely shown, like I said, some Blade Runner vibes with music and the rain and
Melancholy.
Yeah, but I guess to kind of not answer your question, but maybe they go after these women because there's something about them that they're just attracted to, something that is
They're alluring.
Well, yeah, but they're also they're not trying to get them. It's almost like it's certainly hard to get, but there's something that resonates. There's got to be something about those women that they find relatable.
It's like, what I wouldn't want to be part of a club that would accept me as a member. It's like, I don't want to be with a woman who would be pursuing me.
Right. Yeah. Which goes back.
I would want to be with a woman who would want to pursue a guy like me.
That's like Shakespeare comedies. That's like some of your classic romance stuff. So that I think that's definitely part of it. And relatable.
Well, and I think all of us in our lives have pursued someone of substance who was very different than us and felt interesting, and you wanted to feel that difference because, like, these two dudes seem like two pretty just cops. They do their job, they have mundane lives besides being policemen, but like there's something interesting and different about the women that they feel attracted to. And I think the cliche of like opposites attract, it's something different and we like it and we're going to pursue it, even if, going back to Vinny's point, like a relationship like this has an expiration date potentially, because is it really going to work out or last? Well, enjoy it while it lasts. And which, that's a hard thing for me personally to process, because I'm not the kind of person that had ever been like, you know what, I'm just in this for some fun for a while. I don't see a future in this. I've always been somebody just like, I'm not going to put my time and effort into something if there isn't potential there for it to be something substantial and permanent in the future. So I do think it's interesting. It's like on the surface, are they really thinking about, is this really going to work out or not? Maybe I just want to have some fun, but maybe deep down they're like, I know this isn't going to work out, but I'm going to shoot my shot.
Spend a little time in California, Shane.
No, I'm good.
I know.
I do not feel like I am a California type person.
No, I know, but going with what you were saying, California or Austin or Miami, or
Well,
you'll meet more people who are kind of like, in that zone, so they're here. I'm sure they're here too.
well, I think that's the California dreaming thing about it, is because they are. Like Tony Leung's character is dreaming of this thing that could be, but is it gonna be?
Right.
But it's right there in front of him, and he's digging it.
And and the interesting thing about him is she comes back a year later, right? He's setting up shop. Like he's like standing his ground, setting up shop. This is where he's from. Now he's taking ownership of this place, right? And he's like looking at her like, here it is. I mean, that's the way I kind of read that, looking back at it now. And the door's still wide open for her to go and be part of that with him. He doesn't have anybody else with him, but
She settled down.
She's still not ready to like, absorb that.
It's a commitment. And I feel like that's one of the challenges of this film, is like the commitment aspect of it. Because neither of the women that these two men fall in love with seem to be somebody that's really ready or willing or able or considering that kind of commitment. Like the first story is about this dangerous woman, this mysterious woman. There's nothing about her that says, you know what? I think she's going to settle down with me. I think we're gonna have a nice family. Right. Have a nice picket fence.
He seems desperate. He's so desperate, and she's there, and obviously he sees her, but the mystery, once again, the unknown makes her attractive.
Yep.
Yeah. I get that. I understand.
Listening to you guys talk about the two halves of the film, it kind of seems to me like Hong Kong is famous for its outlaw status. Like the I can't remember the name of the underground, but like basically the triad. Does it sound familiar to you guys? Like the Yakuza.
Yeah.
The Yakuza of Hong Kong is called the triad, basically. So like Hong Kong is famous for piracy, and it's also famous for being kind of a haven to foreign cultures. So maybe from a filmmaker's perspective, those are kind of two seductions. Hong Kong's kind of how to call it, like the angel on your shoulder is the policeman, and then there's this other angel on your shoulder, which is the outlaw, which is attractive and maybe financially beneficial, but incompatible. And then same thing, like the angel on the shoulder is still the cop. It's like it's the law, and what's right and wrong, but there's this other angel on your other shoulder who's also infiltrating your apartment and redecorating and just sneaking in, American music and Garfield and other things into your apartment. And you're so lonely that you pick it up and you go, okay, that looks like the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It's an interesting thing, because I know, Alex, earlier you brought up the fact that it's just like we haven't talked that much about the fact that they're cops. kind of thing. And you know what's interesting is all the Hong Kong films that I've watched, except for In the Mood for Love, was primarily like central characters were police.
Policeman.
And, you know, it's that kind of underlying kind of injecting the world that this film takes place into it, I guess you could say, like building off of what you're saying, Jim, of like it captures the spirit of Hong Kong and, you know, the police officer aspect of it. And, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that like these are cops. They're very mundane, kind of sad people. And they're looking for that different kind of excitement to kind of like shake things up and be that kind of different thing in their lives. And I think obviously the first story is a lot more in your face about it because it's literally dealing with criminals and stuff like that and drugs. But I think that's it's an interesting thing looking at like the layers of what the setting of a film can add in terms of like layers to the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the setting, I remember the one I at this point in the movie, I still had I didn't really quite get it, but there's that one scene with all the shoes and they're sewing the shoes. And I remember thinking like, wow, looks like really good filmmaking. I don't know what the hell is going on, you know. But yeah, no, there's a lot. It really feels like this all mixed up, all sort of jumbled up culture, you know. And so yeah. Did you just get the 5 minutes, Jim? It feels like you're on a show or something and you're like, oh, you're going over to another show.
It's like, well, I guess that might be good timing. Do either of you have any other things to say about Chungking Express?
I feel like I need to watch this movie again. I feel like there's a lot more going on and it deserves a little closer. I feel like back in my early to mid 20s, when I was really into like noirish stuff and Tarantino stuff, which, you know, I still like Tarantino, but I was like watching his stuff all the time. I think I would have appreciated this a lot more in my early to mid 20s. It would have resonated with me more, I think, at that point.
I feel like I'm pretty consistent in terms of like my perspective on things, but I do think that I appreciate this film a lot. You know, and you know what? I feel like I appreciate this film more because I watch so many movies. I'm just like, God, it's something different. Because like, how many cookie cutter romances can you possibly watch without being like, romance is dead? But like, I appreciate the different approach and the different perspective on love that this film offers. And I think Wong Kar-Wai does offer a unique perspective on love and relationships in his films. And I think that's what really carries his films for me, at least the two that I've watched so far.
I feel like talking about it with you guys helps me to kind of gain, as usual, a bigger perspective on the movie.
Okay. So I'm so glad because now I realize it. I have to be careful not to cry because Wong Kar-Wai, just realized it, did a short film with Clive Owen and for the BMW. BMW released a series of short films for cars. There's one called The Follow. And I just realized it. I'm like, holy shit, he probably directed that. Because now that I think about it, it totally had the same sort of tone. And there is a shot at the end of that short film that makes me want to cry. I don't know why. Like, it just makes, like, he just caught the distance between these two people so well. So I really recommend. It's on YouTube. They have like an HD quality version of it. It's called The Follow. BMW. If you put BMW The Follow, it should come up. I don't know why. I love it. And the femme fatale character in the first section, I kept trying to put my finger on, what does that remind me of? That's it. That reminds me of that. She reminds me of that movie. Just the way he shot this, especially the first section of the film. What do you know? It's the same director.
There you go.
Crazy.
Starring Clive Owen, Mickey Rourke, Forrest Whitaker.
Mickey Rourke's in it for like 10 seconds.
There you go.
Yeah, and whoever plays the female, she's wonderful in that too. That's really, really good.
The Follow and The Hire. Looks like
he directed that one too.
Yep.
Oh dang. Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
Alex, mind blown. But I guess that's a wrap here on another edition of the Movie Club. And like we said before, we're going to be talking about The Place Beyond the Pines, starring Ryan Gosling and Bradley Cooper, and two young actors that I honestly haven't watched this in years, and I'm wondering, are they famous too?
There they go. Yeah.
Let me check that real quick.
Jim, I think I could be wrong. I think you're gonna like Place Beyond the Pines more than you like To Drive. It's just my prediction.
I trust your predictions. Drive was cool. It was like a music video, but I think Place Beyond the Pines is going to be more than that.
Yeah, no, Drive's a little bit more.
But Alex and Jim and Shane, thank all of you for tuning in and always supporting the Development Hell podcast.